All right, everybody. I trust all is well. My name is Brian EARHAHON. I'm MAPS 101 and Bold Coach. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're in our session right now in our Zoom or on Facebook in your KW right, Facebook group. Looking so much forward to talking about this conversation here. And so we're just going to go, right? We're going to go respect your time. And I trust that you get value out of this dialogue today. And yet we're going to talk about is truly just what it says on the screen, right? All the reasons why to fall back in love with real estate again. And so I've had an opportunity to have a bunch of great agents across the country. This is my second Zoom into Canada right now, so that's cool for me. And I've zoomed into Virginia, Texas so far today, as well. And what I'm hearing are awesome reasons on why we jump into real estate, and yet we also find there's certain reasons why we forget on why we jumped into real estate. And so obviously my goal today is to remind ourselves of why we jumped into real estate and what it is that we can do to stay with it and keep it always top of mind, obviously, and keep ourselves growing moving forward. So I'm looking forward to this dialogue. Obviously, if you can hear me, feel free to utilize the chat box and throw in any ahas while we're going and while we're having that dialogue as well. So your ahas always greatly appreciated, on top of any questions that you have. So let's get into it, shall we? I don't know if anyone, I trust that you can hear me, and yet as you have any questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat box. So if you can hear me, go ahead and just give me a quick yes in the chat box. I'd be grateful for that. I know no one ever wants to talk to themselves, although we do at times, and yet make sure that, I want to make sure that we have a conversation that, I'm not leaving anyone behind here, right? So this is going to be good. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Jen. Thank you for those responses. And obviously, if you can hear me, let's keep it going. So feel free, though, while you're at it, let me know. I mean, throw it in the chat box. Why did you jump into real estate? Why real estate in the first place for you? Right? What did you do it for? What are you doing? What got you out of the other careers and into real estate? Right? Feel free to unmute yourself and or throw it in the chat box. Why real estate? What did you do? What are you doing this business for? Right? Well, why take that leap of faith and jump into real estate? So feel free to type it in or unmute yourself. Either one is great. And yet, why real estate? For what reason did you take it upon yourself to jump into this business? Yeah, have your own business, control of my hours. I love that. That's a great reason, Vincent. Absolutely. And you hear that often, right? Being able to, I'm not working for the man anymore, right? I'm not putting all this extra time and effort for other people and just to be able to get a fixed income. Here's the thing. We look at real estate often and I think we sometimes forget what it really took out of our pocket to jump into this, amazing high yielding cash flow business. It's where else can you go where you can jump into a business like this compared to, being an insurance agent, accountant, attorney, or a doctor. Come on. For $2,500 to be able to earn doctor, wages and or more. Come on. We're I think sometimes taking it for granted. And here's the thing. I also want you to consider, what would it look like if you took the same type of mindset that you would have to becoming an attorney and becoming a doctor, right? The same hours in education, the same energy, right? What would it look like if we took that and brought it into the real estate business as well, right? Being able to get educated on your profession or your career that you might have had in the past or what you went to school for. What if we kept that student cap on in the business? Because it only takes us so far, right? Paperwork only takes us so far, right? And yet in this business, what does it look like for us to really consider and take into account the other things that we often don't realize are a part of going from a salesperson to a business owner? We're going to talk about that throughout our conversation today. So you'll see some like patterns. And one of the patterns that we talk about is the uncapped income potential, right? You look at real estate with that amazing trend line there, and then you look at the salary line there, right? Ooh, that salary line. There's an average. All these stats, all these conversations, these slides are built off of KW International's research team, by the way. So we don't put anything out as a company that hasn't been backed by research. And we know on average, the average salaried worker is capped and or their income peaks at roughly ages 45 to 49. I'm going to say that again. The average salaried individual caps and peaks in their income potential at the age of 45, 49 to 49. So imagine you're working your butt off, you're in an awesome career that you enjoy, and with the understanding of you're not going to make too much more, or you've peaked at your income once you hit the age of 45 to 49 years old, right? Even though that your skill levels probably increased, you've learned to become more efficient, you've gotten better in your career. Think about what that might look like when you jump into that type of salary role, knowing that you're ages 45 to 49, that income potential is capped, right? Compared to real estate, compared to this business that we have the opportunity to have uncapped income potential. Right now, another reason why we love real estate, and to remind ourselves of why we love real estate, is to consider about the freedom of choice over the hours worked, right? And how we work more specifically, right? So here's the thing though. Thing is that we oftentimes compare our insides to other people's outside. Bold law alert, right? Compare our insides to other people's outsides, and we compare ourselves to say, well, they make a ton of money in that type of lead generation, so I'm going to go out and do what they do. Right? Or they make a ton of money in that type of lead generation. I'm going to do what they do. And the reason why we don't love our lead generation, and as a result, we don't do the lead gen so the business goals don't get hit, is because we're not tying our lead generation to our personality style. We're not tying our lead generation to something that we do well naturally. And here's what I mean. Could you put together a strengths list of what are your strengths and what do you like to do naturally? And can you find some patterns in between the two and create a lead generation mechanism off of that, right? So that way you enjoy your lead gen. Because if you don't enjoy your lead gen, we're not going to do it. You can only go so far with pushing the lead gen and feeling that it's a chore, right? We can only build our business so big if we are not enjoying our lead gen. And so this concept of the conversation reminds me of a concept in Keller Williams that we talk about. It's called committing to self-mastery. And this actually is one of the 6 personal perspectives that we hear in Keller Williams. And it's actually taught in Bold 2.0 and now Bold Pivot as well. And Bold Pivot August coming up here. And again, if I haven't shared with you, again, my name is Brian EARHAHON. I'm a MAPS 101 and Bold coach, former team leader, previous 30 under 30 for National Association of Realtors back in 2018. And so, I've seen the industry from a lot of different perspectives, not only an agent, a rainmaker as well. And so as we look at this, most agents, we don't understand what our internal personality style is. And that goes back to the commitment to self-mastery. Because what self-mastery truly means, and in this case, and why Gary Keller developed it, he found that he's never worked for anyone who wasn't a millionaire, right? And this was in the case when before he started Keller Williams, he's only worked for millionaires. And he's found that millionaires think in a certain manner. And so he's developed a system, and that's what this is. This is a 6-person perspectives is a system on how to go from where you are to where you intend to be. A majority from where you are to where you intend to be, the gap in between is our level of thinking. And how are we thinking and habitually that shows up on the outside. And so committing to self-mastery, that concept means that internally, on the inside, we understand exactly our strengths, our weaknesses, and any opportunities that we have to become better. And we know ourselves inside first, and inside to out, right? So we know how we relate personally to any kind of skill that we haven't mastered yet or that we're working to master. And here's an example of that, because here's the thing: every personality style and or behavior style has a difference of a variation in the type of how we handle rejection in a particular type of lead generation, right? So that being one example. Another example might be if you're a high influencer or a social type of personality style, the bubbly type, you might get energy from doing events. Maybe lead generation to an event type of platform is the thing that you intend to do, right? Because you could do that more effortlessly. You love people, you love being around people, you love helping people. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe if you're high analytical, maybe you're more on the side of considering of doing online lead generation because you have a desire, or you like the desire to work efficiently. So you being able to see and drive leads off of metrics such as cost per impression, cost per lead, cost per click, etc., and being able to convert leads at that level, maybe that's more of your boat. Or maybe if you're more of a assertive or driver like myself, and like to see the results ASAP. And if you're anything like me, right, you beat on the microwave to get it to go quicker. And yet, if you do that, then you understand that you might have to go out and get on the phone and call people in order to hit the results that you intend to have. The great thing about this business is that we have options. The tough part about this business is that we have options, right? Analysis by paralysis. And so if we're basing our insights to other people's outsides and say, they're making a ton of money doing that, and we're going to do that instead of actually figuring out what we like to do, what we enjoy doing, and build a business off of that, now we're talking. That's where we have the opportunity lies, right? And so obviously, going back to what you said earlier, Vincent, or what you typed in the chat box, is being able to control your own hours. I love that flexibility and schedule. Another reason to love the real estate business. And that doesn't mean that we get to choose no hours, right? No hours is not a choice. And we don't have that luxury. And yet we also know that long hours are not virtuous. So the next conversation is we look at the high financial return for the effort given. Are we putting 10, 12 hours in, and we're boasting that, man, we put in 10, 12 hours in a day? And yet, did you actually work in those 10 hours, 12 hours? Or did you actually, could you have gotten that down to 4 or 5 or 6 hours, right? Most agents don't know what that five, say, areas of that top 20% of individuals, top 20% agents are focused on, right? The top 20% of activities that top agents are focused on. Millionaire real estate agents are very clear that the number one thing that they can be doing at any given moment, and they do with less effort, is lead generation. And I would imagine that because top agents and millionaire real estate agents know and are at peace with the way that they lead generate, and they can do it as effortlessly as possible, that they do more lead generation, in which creates them to have the ability to be a millionaire real estate agent or to be a top producer, etc. And so, are we at peace with the what it takes to become a top agent? Like, and also, are we clear on what it takes, on what is actually that we consider work? Right? Are we clear with what's considered work? Because if we're not clear with what's considered work, then we're missing opportunities here. And so for us, what is your definition of work? I can tell you what the top agents would consider work, and what's based off of proven models and systems. Meaning, if you're not prospecting every single day, if you're not doing your lead follow-up every day, or appointments, negotiation, skills, and role play, if you're not doing those 5 every single day, are you working? Would you consider it work? Because if you're not doing that combination of 5 or all 5 every single day, what are you doing? Answering emails, creating flyers, entering one listing all day, right? So when we consider that, what would your life look like if you just knocked out those 5 every single day? You prospected, you lead followed up, you went on appointments, you set and went on appointments, you negotiated those contracts, right? Negotiating those contracts, not handle the disclosures of, right? One is up front to open the escrow and get it under contract and close, and then the other one is to keep it together. All right. Do we have transaction coordinators who are well versed at being able to handle those details? And then finally, skills and role play, right? Are you building your skill set? Are you working on your role play? Are you practicing the dialogue? And is your message matching the market? Right. We talk a lot about that in Shift, and obviously in Bold Pivot coming up this August 4th. We talk about, is your message matching the market? If your message is not matching the market, you have lead conversion issues. All right, I'm gonna let that sit a little bit. And so when we're focused and putting in focused effort on this, and there's a great conversation with Wendy Papasan when how she got in the industry and when she got started. She was very clear that she only had between the hours of 10 to 3 to start, right? 10 to 3, because she was a mom first, mom and wife first, right? And Wendy Papasan, who's the wife of Jay Papasan, who wrote and co-authored the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, she decided to jump into real estate and build her business. And what she found is that, look, I got to build my business around my priorities, right? That may being a mom and or a wife first. That may be a dual agent, having another career on the side that you maybe enjoy and you want to keep along the way, right? Whatever that looks like for you. The great thing about this business is that you get to create a business around what your priorities look like. And so for her, it was 10-3. So the first year operating, and you would probably imagine, I'm sure you could imagine the level of precision and prioritization and energy that she would have to show up within those hours of 10-3 to run her business with there, leading with priority. That first year, she was able to close 18 transactions. Fast forward 10 years later, rounding out to the end of 2019, she closes $100 million worth of production in Texas. So you look at the different, the perspective there of, am I keeping my priorities aligned and upfront with me, right? Versus am I reacting to other people's priorities? Another conversation on why we love real estate is, come on, we have the inside opportunity to invest. We've got the opportunity to truly create a portfolio of wealth that translates to generational cash flow and/or equity that we always get to keep in the event that we keep that as a priority, right? Most of us got into real estate to own it, not to sell it. I know, at least I did. And yet I got caught up in selling it. Nothing wrong with that. No judgment ever, right? And yet at the same time, let's not forget that inside opportunity to invest. Let's not take that for granted, because people go to jail for taking advantage of inside opportunities to invest in other industries, like our stock market here in the States, right? If you don't know who Martha Stewart is, you might want to look her up, right? Awesome lady, awesome business. She's never hurt anybody, never hurt them harm to fly. Probably one of our pillars of pop culture when it comes to, of lifestyle modeling and cooking shows and entrepreneurship. And yet she went to jail over insider trade, taking information that other people didn't have, buying a certain amount of stocks or exiting a certain amount of a stock in a certain fashion, and she had jail time as a result. Yet we take advantage of the inside opportunity ethically, morally, and in a win-win manner? At least in the States we can, right? And yet, what are we doing and how are we viewing that dialogue? Because at the end of the day, most Gary Keller found that most agents would take a listing and go out and find a buyer versus taking a listing and going out to find a partner to buy that listing. I'll let that sit. Because when we look at it that way, are we really taking on the advantage and the support for us to use this inside opportunity to invest to build our portfolios? Right, these are all great questions, right? Because here's the thing. What would your life look like if you became your own iBuyer? What if you became your own iBuyer, instant buyer, internet buyer, whatever you want to call it? Meaning that you give your clients a way out quickly to sell in a more convenient fashion. What if you lead generated or you created your lead generation around that? Same concept of I buy ugly homes or et cetera, whatever you have in your area. And yet, what if you led with that? Well, and most people say, I don't have the money. Well, you find the deal, the money will find you. Right? What if you went to an investor and you said, hey, investor A, right? Investor A, here's, if I were able to find you a property at 80% on the dollar that cash flowed every single month and got you a 10, 12, 15% ROI annualized, would you buy it? A lot of you are like, heck yeah, I'd buy that, right? I would buy it personally, right? Those are my criteria. That is my criteria. So when we're talking about how we're helping other people, and putting ourselves in positions to be in front of more buyers and more sellers specifically, let's think a little strategically. One of the 9 ways that millionaire real estate agents think is thinking strategically. So when we're talking about generating business to iBuyers, like for instance, 90% of people who have inquired to an iBuyer, 90% end up selling their property within 12 months. 60% actually end up listing with an agent. Is this another lead generation tool that we're sleeping on? By the way, could we actually partner with our investors in the form of being able to say, well, hey, investor, right? If I were able to find you that deal, 80% to 85% on the dollar, your cash flows at an annual rate of X, right? Fill in the blank, whatever is acceptable to you and the investor. Would you buy it for me? Oh, by the way, what if I kicked in my commission and I got a piece of the pie? All right, sacrificing the short-term cash flow for the long-term gain. All right, could you do that in an ethical, moral, right? By disclosing, right? Could you do that in an ethical manner? Right, making sure it's a win-win-win for all parties involved. Can you set those deals up? Again, these are just questions. So as we go in and we talk about the epidemic that we have in the States anyway about student loan debt, how are we doing in helping the people in our lives tackle student loan debt, right? And I love what you just said, Vincent. I lead with selling real estate and ended up also buying properties by accident, not planned, and yet you're doing it. And yet, what if you came up with a plan? Like we just discussed. And another conversation is, what if you taught your people in your database how to invest in real estate? All right. Fact is, could you set up an opportunity? And I got this from Gene Rivers, an awesome mega agent out of Tallahassee, Florida, and he talks a lot about helping your clients jump into kiddie condos. Right. And the concept of kiddie condos is really just an idea of being able to go to current homeowners, right, or your past clients, and for every little kid that they have, toddler or child that they have, obviously they're going to go to college someday. What if you help them buy an investment property or a kiddie condo that cash flows, right, and you see some of that appreciation, and then fast forward 5, 10, 18 years, 20 years down the road, is their college paid off? Could that happen? Absolutely, it could happen. Right. What if you formed that type of value proposition and you lead generated with that? What if you went to kellerinc.com, in which you could, and pull up the Millionaire Real Estate Agent resources, and you downloaded the PowerPoint and the investor workshop kit by going to kellerinc.com, right? And you downloaded the investor workshop kit and you taught an investment workshop once a month or twice a month. And now your lead generation is simply getting people into that funnel and funneling them into your investor workshop. And what if you created a community of like-minded people who are intending to invest, who could be your next investors? Like, what if you had 10 to 20 to 30 plus people every single year that say, hey, I want to buy a new property every year for the next 5 years? All right, what does that do to your business? What does that do to the anxiety of how every day having to go out and find new business, new people, right? What if? Right. No, property management is an absolute. Make sure your numbers pencil in property management. That's a cost of doing business in my world. Right. We're not going self-managed. No way. It's built to scale. Now, if somebody wants to do 1 or 2 self-managed, yes, and yet that's not built to scale. And yet at some point you want to always factor in property management, because I don't see that you always want to get the phone calls in the odd hours about toilets overflowing or whatever the case is, right? So property management, great question, Dan. Thank you for asking. Is always for me, it's a must. I pencil that in. That's a cost of doing business. So in my numbers, my cash flow has to work out with for me in my area, property management is about 8 to 10%. So if I can't get 8 to 10% of my rental rate every single month factored in, and still cash flow, and cash flow is the it thing here, then I'm not buying it. So that's something that I would recommend. There's a great question. And so those are all questions though, right? What if you set your business up that way? My pleasure, Dan. And so what if you went out and you started to take on this mission personally, and it became a mission versus lead gen, right? And it says, you know what? I see this stat here on my screen. I see that the average net worth of a renter is $5,200. I see that the average net worth of a homeowner is $240,000. I see that there's a 45 times difference in net worth or gap thereof. And yet, how are the people in my life doing? Do everyone that I care about own a home? Do they own multiple homes? Right? And we all have stories to create inspiration in regards to this dialogue. I have a story. I have a few stories. And one that points out to me that really touches my heart is when one of the first transactions I had was with a lady who, never thought she'd own a home. Literally, her belief was strong that she would never buy a home. It's actually a generational thing, because she was the first one to actually buy a home within her family, right? To own a property. Think about that. Are you having to, at times, break down other people's beliefs about what they can't do based off you telling them what they can do? And there's a transaction being made, a sale being made on every dialogue, every conversation. Either they're selling you on why they can't, or you're selling them on why they can. Who's buying what? Right? And I'm not buying the fact that people would say, or she told me that, hey, Brian, I'll never be able to buy a home. I don't think I could do it. I said, stop it. When do you think that my lender can call you for this dialogue to get us started? Fast forward, she buys a home, $10,000 out of pocket. Can you imagine that? $10,000 using the right programs, $10,000 only out of pocket to buy a home. She buys this property. 10 years later, she reaches out to me and she says, Brian, I'm thinking about selling. What would it sell for? After all costs, expenses, etc. Mitzi is her name. Mitzi has 162,000 reasons on why she should buy another one, right? Because you think about that. I mean, 10 years just by paying the mortgage, you go from $10,000 position in a property to 162,000. Where else can you do that? If I wanted to own and control $100,000 worth of stock right off the bat, I'm not able to do that and leverage my way in, right? I'm not coming in $20,000 to control $100,000. I'm not doing that. And yet, can you leverage in real estate? And you leverage effectively in a profitable manner in real estate? Absolutely. Right. So I trust that you're getting some dialogues as I take a quick sip of water here. Anybody want to share with me a little bit about your aha so far in our dialogue? Either throw it in the chat box or unmute yourself. I would love to hear what you're thinking. Feel free to unmute yourself. Don't be shy. You're real estate agents. You talk to people for a living. Challenge, right? Who's gonna do it? I'm okay with awkwardness, by the way. I have no problems. I'm a boat coach, right? So anyone want to tell me what they're thinking? Any ahas in regards to this conversation so far? Feel free to throw it in the chat box or unmute yourself. All right, sounds good. So here's the thing, we're gonna keep it going, and yeah, participation is everything. And if you're not willing to participate, that's gonna be, right, participating here is how you participate everywhere. And yeah, thank you, Fern. Work to your strengths with lead gen, make it fun, connect what you do with helping people. I love that, thank you, Fern, appreciate that. And here's the thing, where else can you go in this business or in any business where you can actually come in as a salesperson and exit as a business owner, right? This is a great dialogue. This is probably one of my favorite slides here. And thank you, Vincent, right? Never really looked at it that closely when it comes to, convincing people to invest, right? And this is a dialogue, as we back up a little bit, this is a dialogue about how we truly, do we see it as a duty, right? Is it our duty to truly help people become investors and owners in real estate, right? Are we truly taking it upon ourselves to help? And because what we do, I believe that we're the doctors of financial wealth, in my opinion, right? We're the financial planners that help people generate lifelong, not only keep and yet generate lifelong generational wealth, right? We're the stewards of that in our industry and in our communities, I believe. Right, if over 80% of people own real estate and the wealthiest people make their wealth in real estate, how are we showing up in that? Are we showing up in that manner? I mean, fact is, people watch HGTV, right? I trust that you have that in your area, and yet people are watching TV shows about real estate all day, every day, and sometimes making our job a little bit more challenging because everybody's got an opinion on how real estate should look because they're watching it on TV all the time. And yet for us, though, how are we doing in our conviction and ensuring that I love what I do enough to be able to translate that into helping people grow wealth through real estate? And are we taking that almost personal, right? And is it, when we come from that standpoint, if somebody says, go get a real job, and I'm sure some of us have heard, if you've made enough phone calls, why don't you go get a real job? Right? I'm pushing back on that. If anybody ever told me, hey, I never want to buy a home or I'm not interested, I almost take that a little like, what do you mean you're not interested? You're not interested in buying and building wealth? You're not interested in owning homes and in generating passive income? Like, who's not interested in that? You want to work all your whole life just to, and here's the thing that Mitzi told me, my first client, that broke my heart and told me and showed me that I got to do better. I've got to do better in the way that I approach people, my clients. And that's why I've been in more in the coaching dialogue and speaking and sharing, because what I found is that most people, like in her position, she told me, and here's her just about exact words. She said, Brian, I'm scared to retire. She was scared to retire because I'm afraid that I'm going to run out of money. How many people out there in your communities right now are afraid to retire or have to continue to work because they never set aside a true retirement, or they set aside a retirement, right? They have a retirement account that got wiped out in the last global economic downturn, or got wiped out in recent months because of COVID, right? How many of our retirements have been wiped out because lack of control over the asset, right? I study investing. I know about stocks. I know about the returns. I know about, what you can get in annuities, et cetera, all the above. And yet where else can you go where you can have the control and the stability and the minimal volatility, by the way, compared to the stock market and other vehicles like that. All right. So I'm off of that soapbox there. And so let's talk about delegation. Let's talk about going from being a salesperson to a business owner. Because one of the great things that we get to do is that we get to come in as I do everything, and we turn it into a they do and it's theirs tasks, right? And that's the concept of leverage and delegation. So when you come into this business, obviously you're responsible for your lead gen, your listings, your sales, and then your administrative, right, roles, right? Everything that you do there creates administrative tasks that have to be done on the left-hand side, what you do, what you're responsible for. Until you get to a place where you can afford the leverage, once you're able to afford the leverage, now that gives us the ability to put leverage in place. And leverage comes in three forms, by the way. First form, right, the least expensive form is systems. That's more sweat equity, right? The second least expensive form is tools like Command or CRMs, right? The third most expensive form of lead generation that requires the most investment, the highest most investment, is the people leverage, right? And so most times, us as agents, we are the bottleneck to the growth of our business. We have a ton of people in our databases, people that want to work with us, and we may be doing a great job of servicing, and yet most times we take the foot off the pedal of growth because we don't know how to bring other people into our world and help them grow, such that by helping them grow, we grow, our business grows, and everybody's hitting a win-win-win. Right. So when we come into this business, it's I do everything. And we're talking about this concept of I do it, then we do it, and then they do it, and then it's theirs. So when we're talking about this, here's the thing, because I want to back up a little bit. Yes, once you get to a point of understanding how to sell a home, you've got the paperwork down. You know how to market property. You know how to sell it and close it. You know how to take care of the client. Most times for us, it stops there. We don't focus on figuring out how to do better and continue to grow and helping and servicing more people. Because if you know and you see some of the disparity in home ownership and the disparity in service from agents out there who don't care about the business like you care about the business, and you listening to this conversation and dialogue, if you're here right now and you're listening to this, you care about the business. So you know personally that you deserve the business, as much business out there than anyone else, because you're willing to do what it takes and to service your people at the highest level possible. And a part of being able to service the people as best as possible is never turning away business. It's by being able to bring people into your business to service them at the highest level possible. Now, when I say never turning away business, never turning away good business from good clients, right? Because when we lead generate and we know exactly what and reach out to people, and we know why we're lead generating, and we're connecting what we do with helping people, we are empowered to work with people that we like. Some of us are tethered to people that we don't like in our transactions, and that says a lot. That says that we're not doing enough lead generation. And that says that we don't have the next up client to replace the current client. Right. And so when we're talking about the delegation of going from I do it, then we do it, then they do it, and then it's theirs, that's a career visioning conversation, by the way. That's a conversation about truly mastering what it is to do and then how to do it. Right. And so when we're talking about we do it, when we bring in an admin at the top of the chart there, that means that we're working this dialogue together, right? We're putting this together. We're putting the systems together, right? And then we go from we do it to they do it. That gives me my time back. That gives me that 30 to 40 hours a week back of administrative tasks. And I get to put that towards lead generation specifically and go out there, get more business, or split that time and actually put that time more towards being able to grow other people and being in with my family and my friends and all the above. And so when we go from that I to we to they do it, and then ultimately it's theirs, Theirs is the concept of you building an empire. Because if you get enough people in your world that is in their, right, that their category, it's theirs. They own the roles, right? They own the roles. If you look at the downward side of that, what you delegate in this order, by the way, it's first your sales, your showing assistant, and then maybe your showing assistant turns into a buyer's agent. And then you leverage out the listings. And then you find the last thing to be leveraged out is the lead gen. When you get enough people in their mode of holding those hats right there, you can be anywhere in the world that you want and your business continues to grow. All right, you can go on vacation and come back to more business than when you left. Because this business is not focused on you running it and you growing it. It's focused on everybody else growing it with you. And that's what we're talking about, building an empire. And so here's the thing, success is relative. Whether you're looking to do 10 transactions or whether you're looking to do, 100 transactions, success is relative. So do what it is that you personally are looking to do that matches up with your priorities at the time and where you intend to go. Because when we're taking this opportunity and to be in mastery, by the way, and jumping back into the conversation of self-mastery, in which we talk about regularly in Bold Pivot and talk about the other 5 perspectives that is basically a system. It's a system from going where we are to where we intend to be. When we're in mastery around that Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and we take this from being just a book and turn it into a blueprint, usually as a checklist, a system. By the way, this blueprint right here is responsible for more millionaire real estate agents than any other content or resource in the real estate industry, by the way. And yet, are we using this, the studious mindset in which that we would have used in other industries if we were a doctor or an attorney and having to learn and grow, learn before we can actually practice? Are we taking that mindset of learning, and taking the opportunity to learn and grow and earn, learn, grow, and earn, learn, grow, and earn, and the concept of be, do, achieve, right? Be, do, achieve, right? Not even have. We've changed it from have to achieve because we thought that, materials have was more materialistic versus achieve being more of no one can ever take that away. So here's the thing. This book, I love that you love this book. Dan, this is your system to generate an operations manual, because this book right here allows us to be a franchise. I want you to hear this. This book allows us to be a franchise within a franchise. Right? Does KW line us up on how to create an operations manual? Do we learn how to hire people? Do we learn how to lead generate? Do we know exactly what to do and when to do it and how to do it? The company's already lined all that up for us. And yet here we are, we're the player coach in our sports team, and we're doing all the above, and we're recreating plays and going there and executing. And if you've ever seen it, the player coach model never works. Right? Are you being willing to stay out of being overly creative and get back into just run these plays? Right? This right here, these plays allow me to generate a systematic cash flow in my business. And these plays right here allows me to keep my cash flow and have my cash flow building well passively while being protected, right? And defer my gains, tax deferred gains, right? So what is it that we're doing that we know that we can perform and grow? And are we in mastery of this dialogue, of this craft, or are we taking it for granted? Because when we look at certain other franchises out there compared to what the franchise model that we get to run and have across all of Keller Williams, and having an initial investment, look at the average top 20 at the bottom there. Average top 20 franchises is $200,000. You may have these franchises in your area, and yet $200,000 is the average startup for a franchise. How about that average return? $80,000 versus our $2,500 startup to uncapped potential. I don't know. It's a lot there, huh? It's a lot. It's getting pretty deep, getting pretty heavy. So I trust that you're getting this. Yet, why do we fall out of love with real estate? Yeah, here's the thing. We already know what to do. It's in the MREA. It's in the Red Book. We know what to do. Yet most people fall out of love with real estate because they don't know what to do. And yet, if anyone were to ask me, and being a former team leader and had him recruit over a couple hundred agents, within a couple of years, right, and doing that consistently over 4 years, what I found is that if anyone ever told me what to do, I really immediately went back to how much do you know about the MREA? How many times have you read it? Because reading that once and twice, that's not enough for you to get it. If we only retain 10% of anything that we read or take in at any given moment, then we're only taking or utilizing 10% of our potential in that business or that form or that market, that space, right? What does it look like for us to be in mastery? Like I'm on the 15th to 16th time on this MREA book, and I'm still getting something every single time. It's a blueprint. This is not just something put on your bookshelf to make look good, right? Your bookshelf nice decoration in the background. No, this is something that you're actively using every single day, right? And then with the second part of why people fall out of love with real estate is because they don't know how to do it. Well, so here's a shocker, is that 80 to 90% of our top agents across the country are getting majority of their business, or I see most of the top agents, based off research, are getting 80 to 90% of their business from their top 3 sources, from just 3 sources, by the way, 3 to 5 sources. 3 to 5 sources generates 80 to 90% of the business for the top agents in our country. Ooh-wee. Or in our company, period. So when we're talking about that, are we talking about, are we overcomplicating this business? Are we overcomplicating, right? Because complexity waters down the ability to execute. Are we keeping it simple? How simple can we keep our business, right? Our business is directly correlated to the amount of people that we talk to regularly about real estate. Now, are we enjoying that conversation? Once we are at peace with that law right there, our ability to grow our business is correlated to the amount of people we talk to about real estate on a regular basis. If we are at peace with that and we enjoy that and we enjoy the conversation that we have called lead generation regularly, then now we're talking about, wow, now we're hitting the marker. Now we're growing it. Now we're hitting it out of the park, right? Now we're growing our business naturally, organically, because we can't stop talking to people about this business, about the offerings of this business. Right. And just learn as you go. If you're brand new, you've never had this conversation before, you've never been in the industry, learn what you have in the basics of the MREA, go to Bold Pivot August 4th and go and learn the rest as you go. One of the great things about Bold Pivot and why Bold works so well, and we've had hundreds of thousands of agents go through the system and average amazing transactions while in Bold, is because the concept of learn and then go do. Week to week, we learn and then go do. And then they come back and then we adjust, we look at how things worked out, and then we learn and then go do. And it's over and over and over again. We do that process over 7 weeks that we have in Bold. And yet in Bold Pivot, we're doing the same thing over the 4 weeks that we have in Bold Pivot. And we're teaching you every single day, 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, right? And we are learning and then go do day to day, right? Learn, go do, learn, go do. And it's a consistent process. And so take that model and offer that into yourself, into your business. How are you doing and learning and then going to do, and then coming back and adjusting at the same time? Because here's the thing, we another reason why we fall out of love with this amazing business is because we are doing too much, right? In too little time. Do it, delegate it, delete it, or delay it. That's it. Those are your options. Do it, delegate it, delay it, or delete it. Don't do it. Right? And are you using the one thing principles? Top 3 things that you can do, the 3 things that you do when you're approaching your calendar is, number 1, you time block your calendar time, right? Or excuse me, time block your time off. That time that you use to regenerate that energy. It's halfway point through the year, right? How's your energy? How are you keeping your energy up? Number 2 is your time block your lead gen time. And most people don't know that there's 3 parts to that time block, 3 parts to lead generation. Number 1 is your prep time, where you figure out who you're going to call and when you're going to call them. Number 2 is you're taking action, the activity. And number 3 is time blocking your time, your planning time. So how are you doing in making sure? And the number 3 is often forgotten about. Right. And so I might have kind of just blurred some things there. And yet we're talking about your 3 parts of lead generation in that number, second part of your one thing or what you time block being lead gen. And yet your prep time, your action time, and then finally the third one is your maintenance time. Right. Your maintenance time. So how are you doing in making sure that you're going back and you're maintaining your business, your note cards, you're updating your database, your notes, setting reminders. Those are the times those are the activities that you're doing within your maintenance time. And then finally, the third part of your time blocks, right? So your first part of your time block was set up your off time, set up your lead gen time, and then finally setting up your planning time. How are you doing at planning? Gary Keller said at the early beginning of this year, when he was asked, where do most agents, where are they challenged in kicking off their year? And he said this, look, it's not even just about the beginning of the year. Most agents are challenged throughout the year because they fail to plan, right? Failure to plan. And actually that's the next up, failure to follow the plan. And yet we don't plan regularly. What does it look like for you to have a time block in your calendar every single week that you're actually planning, right? Where you plan on how did you do, where you reflect on how did you do, and then you look at, okay, what were the results? And then for the upcoming week, the next 7 days, what am I going to do next, right? And having that in your calendar consistently and making it a habit, right? Time blocking that planning time. And then if you're a high producer or somebody that has other people that they have to hold accountable, the fourth bonus one there is time blocking your accountability time, right? Who are you holding accountable in your world? If you have a team, you're holding your one-on-one people accountable, right? Individually, as well as you're doing a team meeting to hold everybody accountable towards the goals that we're setting out for, right? So plans fail when we let them get too complicated. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Number two. And then number three, focus on growing the business and then running it, right? And then number four, obviously, let complexity show up and then deal with it as it goes. Bring great people in your world to help you handle that complexity, right? Don't be the bottleneck to your business, right? You have a great growing business. People want to work with you. Just learn to leverage. It's not about the transaction. It's about mastery over the process of growing your business, right? And the mindset thereof. Do you have the mindset necessary? If your business grows to the extent that you do, if you're a bold agent, if you've been to bold business objectives of life by design, then you understand the bold laws. And one of the best bold laws, and the ones that changed my life, is that your business grows to the extent that you do, right? Are you growing? Meaning if I grew myself and I grew my mindset, meaning my income will trail with that, or my income follows after that. What a concept. So don't prioritize. Number one is, where we get overcommitted is we're not prioritizing. We just talked about time blocking, right? And also inability to say no. What are we saying no to, or what are we saying yes to that we should be saying no to? Because when we say yes to something, we're saying no to other things in our world that might be more important. And in agency, we don't delegate. Another reason why we fall out of love with real estate, we don't delegate and we don't manage our expenses, right? Also, more in the world of rainmakers and growing your business, you have wrong people doing the wrong things, right? And take note of that little quote there at the corner, left-hand corner, doing things that suck energy and working with people that suck energy. One of the things that we find ourselves tethered to is to our business sometimes is clients that we don't enjoy working with. When we do great lead generation, like I said earlier, we get to choose who we get to work with, right? And how we intend to work. And we don't manage their health. This goes back to the time blocking our time off. Are we taking care of our spiritual, our physical, our emotional, our financial? What does our time off look like? And are we spending it with the ones that we love, right? So why do we lose the fun? Why do we lose the fun in this business? Well, it's because we don't keep the fun in the lead generation. And that was we talked about that earlier. Have you reviewed your strengths? Did you review your what you're good at, what you like to do naturally without getting paid? So review that with your strengths. Can you find any patterns there that would make lead generation fun for you, right? And then learn that, get ahead of it, and then say, right? Enjoy yourself while you're going out there and working and helping people. And also, that's the second part of that. We don't connect what we do with helping people. Connect the dots, put it together. Number three is we become too attached to the job money, which doesn't allow us to delegate jobs that we don't like to do well. Get away from the flyers, get away from the listings and entry, the disclosures, the paperwork. Can other people do that better than you can? The fact is, yes. You just got to find them, right? And be willing to pay what it takes to get them in your world. And that's the fourth part of this conversation, or this part of the session, is that we invest in lifestyle rather than investing in people or lead generation. Right? We keep ourselves bottlenecked and we keep ourselves in that control, and it shows up in the excuse of and reasons of they can't do it like that. I can, or I can only do this, or my clients only want to work with me. Obviously, if you go back to some of the myth understandings around why, hey, my clients only will work with me, they're not committed to you. They're committed to the standards that you represent. right? How are we doing in translating the standards from us to our partners, our team members, right? Our companions in the business, and allowing that to translate to the clients. Right? How are we doing? Now, if you would have said, Brian, everything that you said so far sucked. I don't care about any of this. There's no value in there. I trust we turn it around with this slide right here, meaning that we don't see the real estate as a database driven business. I've done over 1,200 appointments in my career as a team leader. And I found that I'll tell you in kidding, no more than 10% of agents, maybe 120 people out of 1,200 people literally manage their businesses within a database, right? Most everybody else, 90% of agents are either using their cell phone to manage their business and keep in contact with their clients, or a spreadsheet, right? Most aren't using an actual database or a system. So when we're talking about actually being able to understand a database driven business, if you were to come to me today and you say, hey, Brian, how is it that I can set up and I can earn a couple million a year in gross commission income? I would say get to 14,000 people in your database or CRM ASAP and market to them systematically 36 times a year, roughly every three times a month. By doing that, keeping it simple, you'll have that gross commission income show up. Right. And we look at the right-hand corner of total annual touches. The total annual touches, when you look at, you take the size of the database and you multiply the average annual touch. That's where you get the total annual touches. How is anyone managing 484,000 contacts on a cell phone or a spreadsheet? It's not possible. Not for that big of a business anyway. And yet, what are you looking to do? Now, here's the thing. If any of you have ever said, well, hey, or have ever gone to college, would you ever pay the tuition necessary to go to an Ivy League college or any college thereof personally, and you paid for it and not show up to class? Right? Being in self-mastery. Why not go to class? Why not be in these sessions that we have from the number one real estate training or number one training company across all industries worldwide, by the way? Right, they retired us from being able to compete in that category because we kept winning 5 years in a row. Right? If you didn't know that, you're aware, right? That's the level of education that we have in this company to build wealth. It's a wealth building company. And so when we're looking at what the last part of this, as we wrap up here, we allow what we do to never be enough. Gary Keller once said that, and hey, here's the difference between me and the rest of the industry. The rest of the industry, this is Gary Keller talking, is that I've never settled, right? Never settle towards the constant progression of becoming better. What would it look like if your business grew 30 to 40% every single year, year over year, consistently for 20 years, 2 decades? You'd be another Gary Keller, because that's what he did. That's what he was able to accomplish. What would your business look like if you did that, right? How would you feel being able to accomplish that? Now, again, success is relative. So grow your business at any level that you choose to push. As long as you're happy, as long as your goals are being fulfilled and you're successful, right? That's your world. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot real quick, no pun intended. Some quick details on Bold Pivot. So I wanted to just share this with you. Is number one, it's like I mentioned earlier, it starts August 4th. It's actually going on right now. Actually, literally as we speak here, Bold Pivot is just wrapping up. And it's actually once a week here, Coach's Corner, prior to the actual main launch date of the main event. And yet every single week you're getting Coach's Corner advice from coaches from like myself who are coaching to certain perspectives and challenges, as well as mindset necessary to grow. Because here's the thing, you might say, well, hey, I've already done Bold Pivot, and yet have you mastered it? Have you mastered the principles of Bold Pivot and Bold 2.0, right? Have you mastered the 6 personal perspectives? Are you in the habit of goal achievement, right? Whether you hit your goals or whether you don't hit your goals, that's a habit, by the way. So how are you doing? We're halfway through the year right now. If you follow sports, say you're a fan of sports, if you've ever played sports, you know that, and you've heard coaches say the first thing to go when fatigued, if you're fatigued right now, the first thing to go is your mindset. And once your mindset goes, and if your actions follow your mindset, once your mindset goes, where are your actions going? Not where they need to be in order for you to hit your goals anyway. So how are you doing in keeping your mindset sharp? What system are you using to keep your mindset sharp? How are you keeping your energy up? right? And if you love what you do and you love this real estate business and your intention is to continue to grow, and it's not about the money, by the way, it's right about who you're helping, who you're growing, who you're becoming, right? Because on the cover of the real estate agent book, it says it's all about the money, forget everything else. No, it doesn't say that, right? It says it's not about the money, it's about being the best that you can be, right? So I would encourage you to keep going and get signed up for Bold Pivot, a $99 investment. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to throw something in the chat box, and I trust that you get this in Facebook as we're live streaming through through the page right now. And yet, if you want access to basically what I'm going to offer you is whether you sign up for Bold Pivot or not, and yet I trust that you sign up for Bold Pivot. And I'm actually offering this as a thank you for signing up for Bold Pivot. And yet, when you sign up for Bold Pivot, and you also give me the survey, and you go to bigrealestatebusiness.com, bigrealestatebusiness.com, you're gonna find a survey there. Complete the survey, and as a result, I'm going to send you a copy of a 70-point checklist for both buyers and sellers on how to manage the transaction from start to finish to offer an amazing client experience. So I'm going to send that to you. You're going to get access to that on top of a video to help you set that up in your opportunities, right? And so I'm going to show you the different ways to set that up in your opportunities so that way you always have it. And you can set and create a great deal flow. And it's built to scale, by the way, right? It's built to go from 1, 10, 20, 30 plus transactions at a time. All right, so you'll get access to that with that video, those checklists. On top of, I'm also going to send you a smart plan as well to help you convert with all the leads that you're going to be getting from Command as you're using it and diving into that. So just go to bigrealestatebusiness.com and fill out that survey, and I'll send it to you. So that's all I have for today. I trust that this was viable for you, and I trust that you got great value out of this dialogue today. I would love to hear any ahas if you have them for me, and anything else that you would like to share. And yet, here's a link to go sign up for bold.kw.com. Right, you go to bold.kw.com. Once you go to bold.kw.com, then that's where you can sign up for $99. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in and participating, and go out there, give me that survey, my friend, and I'd love to look forward to being able to send you the survey, the checklist on top of the video, as well as a smart plan as well. So goal is to lead with some contribution, right? Service first, sales second is a mantra. I trust that you're leading with that in your business and your world, and this has been valuable for you. So thank you all. Appreciate you. If you ever want to say anything else, any ahas, I'll give you a second to unmute yourself. Sumita, thank you so much. My pleasure. Appreciate you tuning in.
Thanks so much, Brian. I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you on behalf of the brokerage. And I also just wanted to ask, the Facebook Live, will that be viewable after this session ends if they wanted to watch it like later tonight or something?
Absolutely. It's going to be in your Facebook there. As soon as I cut this stream off, it's there. It's always there, and you always have access to it. Allison, if you even wanted to post on the comment thread for your people the links that I just put in the chat box, that'd be great. I'd be grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally do that. Thank you so much again, Brian. This was great.
Definitely, my pleasure.